Okay, consider an act on requests for adjustments to or relief from specific charges imposed by the district. Nothing. Okay, consent agenda. Do we have any items to be removed for further discussion?
I had a few comments on 5 and 7.
Okay. On the others, do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
And a second? All in favor, aye. Opposed, nay. Number 5, review and act on the financial reports and disbursements of February 2023. Paul?
I'd like to refer you to page 6, the first comment. Bear in mind, this is now 5 months ended, so we're approaching half a year on these numbers. So the bulk water purchases year to date, our cost is running at 86, almost 87%. So the margins are getting skinnier and skinnier as we go along. So this, again, goes back to the point where we need to look at rate increases, retail rate increases. The bulk sewer purchases were at 102.8 or 103%. So we're underwater on the sewer issue. And as a comparison, the water last year year to date was 77%, and it's 87 now. So we've gone up 10% in cost of the sales volume. The sewer, we were at we're at 98 last year. We're 103, so we're up 5 points on the sewer, which is hard to understand because we're supposedly changing the cost to the actual. We're charging what we're being charged from San Jacinto, and yet we got 5 points worse. Regardless, it's a serious issue, and I don't know if the other MUDs are in the same position, but we're running out of wiggle room. The only thing that's keeping us afloat now is the tax revenue and the investment interest, and you can't rely on investment interest in this market. So we're down to one revenue stream that's of any importance. So rate increases need to be looked at very seriously here, quick. And the other issue is merchant service processing. It's about almost 5th or 6th item from the bottom, the 26,522 year to date. Again, if you double that, we're over, approaching 60,000 for the year. And year to date, we're 38% higher than last year in that expense level. So can you give us an update on where we are on that package?
We have demos scheduled for the end of this month, and they work through our list, 4 or 5 pages of questions that all the staff had. So we're working on that and still working on the soft costs. So we should have something next month.
Are they able to identify any of those services that their packages will deliver that eliminates work from Woodlands Water?
Absolutely.
Okay, great.
It's going to be part of the soft costs. I'm going to work it as staff time. Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
Yeah, we desperately need that. Okay.
And also,
Before you-
Jim and I we've internally spoken about doing a potential rate study for the retail rates.
Okay.
And so we're looking at that right now. We haven't started anything yet, but we were, in light of the fact that, the infrastructure changes with the SDRA projects, all the large infrastructure projects are coming, and those rates will most likely change. We felt like it was a good time to make sure that all of the rates are kind of in order. So that's something that we have been talking about internally, and we're going to bring to the boards here soon, but you brought it up. So
I've been bringing it up for months.
Yeah.
Pete, is there any particular time where we're relegated to reviewing all the districts reviewing the rates?
Well, there's probably better times to implement new rates, which you'd probably want to implement new rates in colder or less water demand months, just because the impact won't be felt so much. So theoretically, you'd look at those
About
the other
October,
months.
November.
Yeah, by then, well, you'd probably want to see that by then, because you also want to make sure that those rates are incorporated into your budget.
Yeah. But as far as reviewing the rates, we're going to see that in the next couple of months, but then we're going to act on it approximately when?
Theoretically, during the budget.
Okay.
So October 1st would be the effective date or whatever, water and sewer rate changes. Is that what you're saying?
Well, effective, they should most likely be included in your budget, but they could be implemented later at a more reasonable time. Could be November, December, or January.
All right.
So, but we would need to incorporate when they're implemented into the budget. If that makes sense.
Jim, has there been a time when we have taken a rate increase? Have we waited like till January 1, or is there any?
Each year, from the last couple of years, we've been implementing a sewer rate increase that we effective January 1. Gosh, I can't even remember the last time we had a retail water rate increase. It was probably implemented prior to January 1.
Okay.
October.
Yeah.
It's
But
like-
there is some rationale for doing it in December, January.
As part of that study, can we identify exactly when we had the last retail water rate increase? I think might have been 2015, but I'm not sure.
And, depending on how, we like to see the MUDs be uniform, at least mostly uniform. I don't know that idealistic desire is going to prevail going forward from our part. But at least all the MUDs need to look at increasing their first tier and probably the second tier, because as Paul knows, our first tier is at $1.70 and we're paying $2 something, 30 or 40, per thousand to the River Authority. So that lifeline tier needs to come up. And I think even the second tier needs to come up. So even if we can't get uniformity in a complete rate study, there's some rationale to getting the MUDs to at least raise the 0 to 3,000 gallon tier and the next tier.
Mhm.
Well, I think, without, driving into any particular conclusion, I think everything ought to be considered. It's been so long that let's look at what other entities are doing around us. I see some of them putting huge bases in, like, maybe for 10,000 gallons. And
Excuse me.
not to get too far into the discussion, but that base usually covers the capital cost of what we collect as a MUD tax. That's why some cities, for example, have a large base. Anyway, that's just.
okay, all good. You're looking at it. That's the important thing. Okay.
Okay.
Next item I had for comment was page 11 on the balance sheet for the debt service fund. Just want to acknowledge that the bond payable that we issued to the state, the $6,550,000, has been added to the bonds payable under the liability section. And so now those reflect the true debt that we have in this district. So thank you for making that adjustment. Those are all zero interest loans. So when you get to that bonds payable section back here on page 14, $6,550,000 will have to be added to that, but there's no interest, so it'll just be the principal only. That'll have to be.
Payment's not due till September of 24.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's right. Good. Okay. And the last item is on page 30. So this is that whole section on the rate increases, and I assume they're increases for construction projects and so on. My concern here is with the Bear Branch and Panther Creek Branch flood control, which we sold those bonds for, and all the MUDs are involved with. Are those going to be San Jacinto River Authority contracts or MUD 67 contracts?
They will be MUD 67 contracts. San Jacinto River Authority will be the administrator. We're talking about the Research Forest, Bear Branch, Panther Branch.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay, so they'll be going out for bid and all that sort of stuff. Okay.
Yeah, but MUD 67 will be the owner of that per se.
Okay, and all of these provisions would apply to those contracts.
Yes.
Yes.
So these, haven't seen y'all in a while, but Katie Blasio from Shorts Page and Harding. each year y'all are required to adopt wage rate scales for construction projects. And so these are the most recent ones the Department of Labor has adopted for these counties, and y'all typically adopt what the Department of Labor.
Do you have a
adopts.
feel for what kind of increases are in there over last year,
I
percentage wise?
A red line that I can show you if you want to look at it,
I
the
mean-
changes from last year's.
Is it 2 or 3% increase, 5 or 6?
Not sure.
But the fact is, the market
Yeah,
it demands a much higher rate than most, all of those that are listed.
This is a government minimum. No one will get rates. They're
They'll be higher.
a lot higher.
Yeah, the market will be much higher than what
Yeah.
construction contracts will be higher than what those numbers are.
All right, that's all I have.
Then do we have a motion to approve number 5, the financial reports and disbursements?
So moved.
And a second, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. And then a motion to approve number 7.
So moved.
Okay, and a second,
Second.
all in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Okay. Regular agenda number 9, Sanjay.
Good afternoon, Summer Havaster here today. The first thing I want to bring up or mention is that there was a small error in the monthly operating report. You all should have received the updated one. The update will affect the graph on page 1 and then the charts on page 2. And I know you guys might take a minute to look that over, so if you have any questions on that, please let me know. And then I also gave you 2 handouts today. One is, looks like this, and it's sort of just a summary, touching on all the items on your agenda. And then the second is very project specific to the Bear Branch drainage improvements. I believe at the last meeting, you guys wanted more information. So it has the same heading, but it has charts on it and sort of a list of where we are in terms of the project status, spend, and upcoming items. And so we wanted to know if this is the type of information that you all want, or is there more information we can add to that, something specific that you're looking for, so we can make sure we're giving you guys exactly what information you want on this project?
So in this progress by task, where it totals 1,032,000, those are the line items or the tasks that have been authorized or released. Am I reading that correctly? And it's a $10 million project. It's actually more than that. So I would assume that that's all that's been released at this point.
Right, so that if you look on it, it says task amount, and that's the amount allocated for that specific task. Amount spend is what's been billed so far on that task or on that item. And so, and then there's a touch point to tell you how much of that's been completed. So right now, we've done 33% of the hydraulic modeling portion of that.
How do you determine when the 91,000 has been expended? When you get in, does the invoice come to you for approval and then it comes to us?
Yeah, the invoice is going to SGRA, and they're taking a look at it because they're managing the project. And then it comes to us. We look at it, make sure that we see everything that's going on. And then the engineer gives a quick summary of what is in those invoices, what they've done so far to describe that number. And then Marine puts it into the outlay report for Texas Water Development Board.
So I guess my question is, does that 91,000 come after it's been approved here? How do you define expended? When does expended occur?
See the invoice and they cross-check to make sure that what's on the invoice actually was completed. But I can get more details on that for you and go through the process of how that works.
Just want to be clear so that I know, so I can track how much is being spent.
Yeah, once Texas Water Development Board gets the outlay report that we send them, then they approve it and then we get the funds to pay the bill.
Okay, but they've got a report here and they're recording it. Are they waiting until the state water board approves it before they record it?
Or
The 91,000.
that's what's been invoiced today. Invoiced or
Right.
I get that. When does that occur? Is it when you get it, when we get it and approve it, or when the state gets it and approves it? When San Jacinto gets it. Okay,
That's what they're approving.
got it. You gonna talk about this thing next, or
Yes, sir, I can answer questions on that for you guys. The best that,
on the second paragraph? It says by the end of the year, is it our fiscal year or the calendar year?
honestly, Mr. Cole, I would have to find out what they mean by that. Let me highlight that and get back to you on that. Fiscal year or calendar year.
Anything else, sir?
There is one more small item, well, actually rather a large item. We would like to take the time to thank you for your service on the wastewater strategic plan committee with us. We know it was a long process.
Here, take
and lots
the
of-
blood right here.
But we appreciate all your guidance and support throughout that process.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
And on behalf of the board, thank you all for your time and your expertise. Summer, anything else?
That is all I have.
Okay.
Unless you guys have any other questions on
Okay.
it.
Any other questions on San Jack? Okay, thank you. Katie, attorney's report.
He apologizes for not being here. He's on spring break with his family this week. There isn't much to update you on. He wanted me to remind you that the Texas legislature is currently in session. On page 70 of your packet, we've included the list of bills that could affect MUDs that the AWD-ED posted to their website. It's a little dated. These are changing each week. One bill that a couple of the boards have asked me about yesterday and today was relating to the Harris Galveston Subsidence District, and it is not in that list because I believe it was filed last week. But that one is House Bill 3820, and in that bill, the North Harris County Regional Water Authority is seeking to be removed from the boundaries of the Subsidence District. So at this point, we don't know which bills will be viable and which will not. We have two lobbyists at my firm who are spending a great deal of time in Austin and will be over the next couple months. And we will try to keep you all updated each month as bills come on and off.
Any questions for Katie? Yeah, thanks, Katie. Number 11, receive update regarding the status of the Bear Branch, Panther Branch, and Research Forest Drive Drainage Improvement Project, authorize any action in connection therewith. Pete or Jim, either one of you? Nothing new on that?
No, that's just been kind of a standard item on
Yeah,
your.
right.
Yeah, they've done some initial analysis and they believe they're still on track to have I guess this next phase completed in May. That's where they'll really know more which direction they're going.
Okay, okay. Then we'll move on. Yeah.
Quick, I don't know who at San Jacinto could answer it, but we threw in a small line item to give you some information about the dam. Is that going to be forthcoming to your timeline to do what you need to do? There's some information about, and I've forgotten exactly, maybe you could help me here, Jim, that they wanted information on the dam because that's affecting their going forward issue about the repairs that they're going to do with the dam?
They wanted the hydraulic data completed where they could run that model to look at the dam improvements. Yes, and it's on track.
Okay,
That's what I was just referring to. It's on track to have that ready by May. That was when they thought they'd have it complete,
okay,
and they're still on track, they think.
got it. Okay, thank you.
Okay, Pete, the general manager's report.
Yes, thank you. Good afternoon. I just had a couple things to update you on. Some of you all may know that Lone Star Groundwater Conservation District did appoint a member to its vacant position. That individual's name is Gary Dent, lives in Mud One, resident of Mud One. Next is in your packet, you'll see a couple flyers for some AWD events coming up. The next event is April 13th, the evening of April 13th. The topic will be Texas housing trends. And so that'll be, I think, on the west side of town in the evening on the 13th. The other is a flyer for the AWD Summer Conference, and that'll be June 22nd to the 24th. Just more of a reminder, it feels like it's far off, but it's the early bird registration is going to be expiring here in the next month, and the prices do start going up. So if you've never been to that before, it can be worthwhile, and some of the seminars can be very helpful for folks. It's usually current events and things like that that MUDs are dealing with. A couple other items to update you on. I think everybody probably is aware that the strategic plan was voted on and approved unanimously by the trustees last week. Been a long process, and a lot of people, a lot of hard work put in, and that was approved. Wanted to update you on the One Water task force. The township had a planning meeting like last week to talk about the resurrection of that task force, and it was met with some positivity, and looks like they are going to go before the township board for a vote to resurrect that task force. Certainly will be involved in that as the task force gets resurrected. And then lastly, I just wanted to update you on the Public Education Committee got together last week to talk, go over the first quarter strategic communication plan that was implemented. In your packet, you'll see a number of different examples of some public outreach that we've been sending out in this first quarter. The topic for second quarter will be water quality. And some of these are print and some of these are digital that you'll see here. So we're continuing to implement that plan. And finally, the PEC also met to, in light of the approval of the strategic plan, there will need to be a pretty significant public outreach campaign to educate the community on what's coming with the infrastructure changes, with the improvements to the water, sewer, and projects. And so we are partnering with SDRA to put together start to build the framework for that public outreach campaign, and more to come on that. But we think it's going to be pretty significant to make sure that the community understands what's about to happen.
Yeah. Okay.
So,
go ahead.
I know in this year plus discussion that we had on this thing, in strategic plan, phase 2 was to include some sort of community outreach, I believe, or was that even phase 3? Did I?
Be phase 3.
Phase 3. Okay. I just would caution that we don't, or we shouldn't, and you said coordinate with San Jacinto, so I guess that's a key word, that we don't let this education committee get ahead of the planning that San Jacinto and Woodlands Water needs to do before, we get to this committee.
Understood.
Totally.
Okay. Any questions for Pete?
A couple of things.
Go ahead.
On page 61, the 242, State Highway 242 widening, I realized that it was apparently shut down led by Director Sekula Gibbs from the township. And I know there's a revised plan, but I unfortunately couldn't attend the meeting, and just would like to inquire what the updates are on this revised plan.
We attended, it's all online, of course, and I think there are recorded if you want to go back and watch them. There are 3 detention ponds proposed. There are no sound walls proposed. They've eliminated all the sound walls. It's more of left turn lanes rather than additional lanes. A few utilities that are in conflict, a couple of manholes that may be in the road, a couple of water valves that may be in the road. TxDOT doesn't really like those. We're trying to work through them and try to get those exempted, but we may have to move a couple of things for them.
So whose expense would that be?
The ours. Portion. We're just out there in there right away. I don't know if the River Authority has any conflicts. They've also been attending meetings as well. We're in pretty good shape, really. We don't really have a whole lot.
How far down 242 does this go? Does it stop at 45?
It does. It goes from 1488 to 45.
Okay, so it doesn't go into Harper's Landing then?
It does not.
I did attend that meeting, and I'll be honest with you, it was just a regurgitation of what they had at the previous meeting for the most part. They had all the maps on the walls showing what they were doing. They had people there explaining things, but I didn't really hear anything drastically new from it at all.
On page 62, talking about UCMR 5. It said that MUD 7 was sampled in January 23, MUD 67, I guess we're up next,
We're up next.
March of 23. How long does it take to perform that?
It's,
I was confused when I read it. It says during a 12-month period.
yeah, it's an odd testing format. So MUD 7 was tested in January. We still don't have the results from that testing. I believe they're testing to 4 days. MUD 67, we got the bottles in here this week. The testing lab came to pick those up Tuesday, I believe, yesterday. But the tests they're gonna pull the test next week. And I can't tell you how long it's gonna take. It's just a matter of when they get the results to a state. And then we're not even sure what who the next MUD is until they tell us.
Wow. So
Yeah,
who's scheduling the MUDs?
The EPA is scheduled.
Okay. Is it the EPA? So it's federal.
It is.
Okay.
It's the EPA.
Do you anticipate any problems?
No, I talked to Chris before, and they had unofficially tested for PFAS. That was it. Yeah, we did it. I don't know. I don't think we did that.
So how many MUDs have been completed?
It's just that.
Oh, so 7 was first and we're second.
Okay.
We do that.
So
We did.
we'll get those samples pulled next week and get on the result. Thank you. Yeah. So, okay.
Okay. Moving on, then, Paul, the trustee report.
I have nothing further to report other than I was, I guess, shocked to hear that Paul Brown had passed away when Bob Lux announced that at the trustee meeting. I was there at the last strategic meeting when Paul was there, and Arthur Bredehoff was kind enough to come before the trustees and express how Paul and he had talked frequently and about this business, and Paul couldn't drive to that meeting, and he said how important it was. There were 3 votes being taken, and that Arthur had agreed to drive him. And I've got to tell you, from a personal standpoint, Paul did not look healthy on that particular meeting. His head was down on the table on a couple different occasions, and people had expressed concern, but nevertheless, I'm just still shocked and just ask for everybody to pray for him. That's all.
Any questions for Paul? Okay, thanks, Paul. No reason to recess. Okay. Any matters to be placed on future agendas? Hearing none, we are adjourned. Thank you all.
Thank you.